Hi, I'm Tasha Bobbo. I'm an associate professor of pedagogy at the University of Padova in Italy, and I'm going to present you a summary of my studies about the link between academia and work. I share my presentation. This is. I am interested in the link between academia and work because I think we have a chance for a new project of a human society, not a market society. And all we know that the transformation of the labor economy after the end of Fordism, characterized by the abandonment of a standardized production in favor of a customized one, has given rise in the last 30 years to two specific socioeconomic models, the knowledge economy and the neoliberal ideology. In the last 30 years, knowledge has become an asset that can be bought and sold to the highest bidder. Since the primary school, children have buy it by earning education credits. When they become adults, they trade it for wages. More and more, academy is driven by the Ministry of Education to turn all learnings into quantifiable credits. A good number of credits is a prerequisite for human capital that can be sold on the labor market. The higher the number of credits, the higher the value of human capital. We talk about credits like we are bankers, but we are educators, and we are doing exactly the opposite of what Freire suggests. When Paulo Freire wrote about banking education, he couldn't have imagined that educators would agree to count credits to ratify student learning. Instead, that is exactly what we are doing. We are building human capital, forgiving the concept of cultural capital. The cultural capital is the number and quality of cultural experiences a boy or a girl can have thanks to his or her background. That is family, social class, gender, ethnicity, country of residence, and this background contributes to the building of a personal identity. Since we pretend not to know that the acquisition of credits depends on the amount of cultural capital each student already possesses before entering our classroom, we perpetuate a symbolic violence against all those young boys and girls who don't have cultural capital in their back. The second socioeconomic model is the neoliberalism ideology, which starts after the Anglo-Saxon culture, especially after the Protestant Reformation. In this culture, the idea of vocation becomes central. Vocation as the duty to express one's talents to the best of one's ability as a service to one's community. And this means that everyone has an ethical duty to use his gift, the gift that God has given him or her, for the service to the community. But this culture is a short step to the ethic of contemporary capitalism. In this perspective, those who don't achieve a good position are guilty of not having done enough. This is too reminiscent of the idea of social Darwinism. Whoever wins has the right to win for the development of human civilization. And the logical consequence of this assertion is that it is right for those who are fragile or imperfect to lose. According to Harry Giraud, the neoliberal ideology is one of the most pervasive that humanity has known, because its truth and narratives are capable of influencing a country's economy as well as its political and social dimensions. And indeed, in the last century, it has managed to infiltrate every type of human relationship. Parent-child, teacher-students, doctor-patients, every of these relationship was reduced to a market relationship. The farmers are producers of something, and later some consumers of what the farmers produce. It is as if everything has been infiltrated by the ideology of free market, of giving to get. But if you can't give something, you can't have anything. In Italy, these two models have given rise to a new liberal academy, which is mainly oriented towards the production of human capital, forcing young people to learn how to compete in a meritocratic system. Politicians, economists, and leaders of industries seize every opportunity to urge young people to choose not the course they prefer, but the one that will give them the chance to find a job as soon as possible. Particularly, they push young people to choose the STEM courses instead of any other degree path. In Italy, there is a very drive towards STEM. And in this perspective, the Italian government issued some guidelines ratified by a law, a specific law, for the STEM disciplines, stating that they are strengthened in every school cycle, from kindergarten to high school, in order to increase the enrollment in tertiary STEM curricula, especially among women. In the guidelines, we find the following justification for their issuance. The STEM is seen as the solution to meet with an constantly changing modernity and the challenges of increasingly complexity. STEM in their interdisciplines between science, mathematics, technology, and engineering. But in the guidelines, there is no word for humanistic disciplines. The ministerial decree number 184 stipulates that starting from the academic year of 2023-2024, public and private schools in all cycles will update the 3-year plan of education offering by providing actions dedicated to the strengthening of STEM skills. Both the Minister Circular and the STEM Week, which has instituted after the law, have been widely reported in the national press, with no distinctions between the right and the left-leaning press. These two models have some flaws. The first flaw, according to Sullivan, is to push young people only the dynamic to the terrific deal, which can only lead them into a spiral of dissatisfaction. The terrific deal is the idea that I must try to buy something at the lowest possible cost, forgiving that this low cost means the exploitation of someone else today who might be me tomorrow. The terrific deal is also often associated with the syndrome of consumption. The second flaw is that directing the educational system as much as possible towards the STEM disciplines, we are building a society of illiterate men and women. What the Italian educational system is doing can only be done by sacrificing hours of didactics of the humanistic disciplines, such as grammar, literature, history, philosophy, and so on. But losing the chance to understand our history, as well as not learning to think and express our thoughts in a language that others can understand, is the way to produce a society of powerless people. deprived of the right and chance of human growth. Especially Italy has two deep wounds in this history. The first regards the period of the fascist regime that characterized our society in the interwar period. The second, the black terrorism, terrified Italy in the 70 years of the last century. But the academic students we have in our classroom know very little about the fascist regime and don't know at all about events of the black terrorism. And this is because in high school teachers often can go much farther than the Second War because they have no time to do it. And the Second War often is quickly presented at the end of the fifth grade. Our students can know very well the medieval period as well as the Risorgimento, that is the period in which our country was united under the Kingdom of Savoy. But they ignore the terrorist attack of Piazza Fontana, which happened in 1969 and left on the ground 17 killed, or Bologna station attack happened in 1980, which left on the ground 85 killed and 200 injured. So these students, these young people, have no means to notice if the fascism or terrorism forces are coming back. According to Giraud, the loss of historic awareness can have reactionary consequences with the progressive loss of individual freedom and basic human rights. Loss of memory can lead to false consciousness, with the loss of the ability to think critically and the legitimation of the ideological hegemony. The second flaw regards that this academic model is produce students unlettered. The results of the Invalsi test, which was implemented in Italy to assess student skill at a different school level, are particularly significant of our students' level of learning in writing and comprehension of our language, that is Italian. The evaluation model of Invalsi established 5 levels of learning objectives for the Italian language, ranging from a spontaneous use of the language to a mastery of the Italian vocabulary and grammatical rules. We can see the result of the 5th year of high school of different instructional paths. The blue line regards the high school which has a curriculum based on the classical paideia. And the school that we call liceo. The red line is the regards the technical instructions, and instead the green line regards the professional instruction. As we can see, in the students of the liceo reach gain in the 40% of the cases the highest level of Invalsi assessment. Instead, this level decrease for the technical instruction and more for the professional instruction. And this is the results for foreign students that, as we can see, are best prepared in the mathematics discipline than on Italian discipline, because schools are stressing the math discipline. Italy is also the country of Lorenzo Milani. Lorenzo Milani was born in 1923 into a wealthy and very educated family. His grandson was an archaeologist. Nevertheless, Lorenzo Milani decided to lose his privilege, to do a symbolic suicide, and became a Catholic priest. He built at Barbiana, a remote village in the Apennines, a school, an example of a democratic school based on the principle of the public sphere, on peer education, and on the principle that it is wrong to make unequal equal. He was well aware of the importance of a child's cultural background for academic success, especially for those who, as children peasants, had no cultural capital on their back. The mission he chose was to give a chance to the children of farmers, the very poor children of a farmer of the Apennines. This chance is to give them cultural capital by learning the Italian language and the Italian culture. We don't know if Milani ever read Ferri, but the importance of the word as a means of reading critically word was part of his pedagogy. Lorenzo Milani died of cancer at the age of 67, at a time when the Italian judiciary was trying him for the crime of apology of desertion, for daring to invite military priests to support objection to military service. In conclusion, and more than ever before, it is worth recalling the word of Antonio Gramsci and Martha Nussbaum. Antonio Gramsci was incarcerated for 9 years in the fascist prison, and in those prisons he died for the bad condition in which he was obliged to live. He states that every educational relationship is hegemonic, because as adults and educators, we can force our students to study something or to something else, to acquire some values or someone else. So we are aware of our ethical duty, not to be the seller of competencies, but to be educators of a human being. Martha Nussbaum states that a country can't be defined rich on the amount of its gross domestic product, but on the basis of the capability opportunities it is able to offer to its citizens. At the end of the Second World War, the constituents, a group of politicians who collaborated to define the constitution of our new democratic republic, the chart of our new democratic republic, well aware of the events of the Nazi fascism dictatorship, state some foundative principle. And the third principle of this chart is that the duty of the Republic is to remove economic and social obstacles, which by effectively limiting the freedom and equality of citizens prevent the full development of the human person and the effective participation of all workers in the political, economic, and social organization of the country. So, we have in our democratic roots the prerequisite, the precondition for a capacitating state, but we seem to be forgetting them day by day, driven by a neoliberal ideology that sees them as the solution to all ills. So, as educator, I am aware that it is necessary to do something to contrast this trend. Nussbaum states that without educating our youth to be able to empathize with the fragility of others, without teaching our youth to think freely for themselves, to be critical of what is taken for granted, without these three things, democracy could not exist. We believe that we should allow our students to acquire a critical attitude towards any taken for granted knowledge, combined with a concern for the suffering of others, through some critical literacy workshops, in which literature, art, and poetry can become the key to rebuilding a society of humanity. We can use poetry that describes the weariness of being as fragile as a disabled person. We can use music to let our students understand the complexity of human suffering. We can use a picture to teach the beauty of fragility and inspire our students to respect what they aren't. We can use a film to show what it means to live under a dictature, letting young people not to take for granted their freedom. We can use a romance to let young people understand what is war and what is death, letting them understand that they are not a video game. We can use press to teach our students to think by their mind, not to be passive to what the other say or states. We have to teach to our students to respect themselves and the others as the first step to build a democratic country where everyone has the chance to be human before being a productive agent of our economic market. It will be art, literature, poetry, music, press, and all other forms of human expression that will save the humanity and democracy of our country more than any STEM skills. This is a duty we, as academic educators, can no longer shrink, no matter what discipline we teach. It is more worthwhile to build democracy than the economic marketplace, for democracy is the condition of every other human action, including work. Thanks for your attention. Thanks for having watched my video. See you soon. Goodbye.